Hi guys, my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the top 10 worst moments in the Scream franchise. Now surprisingly, when I was doing the list of the top 10 here, there's not that many bad decisions in the Scream franchise, and when I look at the list that I've created, most of it is to do with dialogue, script, story, and the way it was delivered on screen. So when I look back, and thankfully I did do this, there's not that many bad moments in the entire franchise, which is a good thing, I guess. But let's have a look at my top 10 worst moments and see how they compare to yours.
This franchise.
And at number 10 is that moment on the subway with Mindy. Now, when it comes to comedic timing, I don't think the actress that plays Mindy has got any comedic timing. So when they tried to tell her to give us some comedy in the movie, it just didn't work for me. There's scenes, for example, in Scream 4, it didn't really fit in. But when Anthony Anderson, when he plays the cop and he says,
Bruce Willis,
although it was silly, it worked because of his comedic timing. But when Mindy does it in this part, it just doesn't work for me.
Hey Connie, how's Maury? Dude, I think she likes me now.
And at number 9 is Jane, Sal Bob in Scream 3. Now, this part felt like a parody of itself at this moment in time. I know that the Scream movies are a bit of a parody of the genre and they honour the genre overall, but at the same time there's boundaries that you don't want to cross. And when we saw Jane, Sal Bob here, it just felt like a Miramax tribute, and that's it, because obviously Jane, Sal Bob are part of Miramax. That's all it felt like to me, product placement for the production company and nothing else. And because they'd done that, it was a little bit self-indulgent and just a parody of itself.
We're in a franchise, and there are certain rules to a continuing franchise.
And at number 8 is Mindy's franchise monologue in Scream 6. It felt awkward, it felt forced, it just felt totally out of place. I know that we're trying to get this new Randy in the franchise, but you can't replace Randy. And if you can't replace someone like Randy, try and do something similar but different. But the way they do it in Scream 6 is just too on the nose. It's almost like they thought, we're going to try and copy Randy word for word because it would look intentional and that we meant it. But in actual fact, we know that you meant it, but not because you wanted it to look cool, but you just had no idea what you wanted to do. And with Mindy being Mindy and the way that she was delivering these lines,
And that makes it more likely that she's the killer, because having a cop dad is a great cover. Do you not remember how these movies work, Tara?
it just felt awkward and forced and totally out of place.
Billy's mother. Nice twist, huh? Didn't see it coming, did you?
And at number 7 is when Mickey introduces Billy's mother with his line. I think the line is just a bit weird. It just didn't fit. I know that Timothy Olyphant is a fantastic actor and he was really good in Scream 2. Even when he was revealed as one of the killers, he wasn't too over the top compared to other characters that were revealed to be the killers. But when he delivered that line, it was another self-indulgent thing, almost like he wanted everyone, the audience that's watching, to know that Billy's mother is significant for some reason. But I think she could introduce herself and that's it. And I don't mind Mickey introducing us and them to Billy's mother, but do it in a different way. He almost looked like some sort of peacock or something, the way he moved his neck. It was too forced and just totally out of place.
Oh my god, I love it. I've seen it 5 times and it still gets me every time.
And at number 6 is the beginning of Scream 4. Now, I know that the Scream movies are known for their meta moments, and I think the sweet spot for the meta moments were in the first 2 movies, Scream 1 and Scream 2, but they took it over the top in Scream 3, and then they went way over the top in Scream 4. They toned it down after the beginning of Scream 4, but with Scream 4 having a movie within a movie within a movie, I think it was just a little bit too over the top, a little bit too much, and I understood it. Some people didn't understand what they were watching, but I can understand what they were trying to do. It just felt a little bit too convoluted and almost, again, self-indulgent, like they know they're going to do something cool, they know that they're being meta. Try and be meta without forcing it. And I think that's the only thing Wes Craven really done wrong in his previous 2 movies, Scream 3 and 4. He went a little bit too meta at times, that it just felt forced.
I know who the killer is. It's Ethan and Bailey.
And Quinn.
Did I miss the monologue again?
And at number 5 is Mindy's happy end at the end of Scream 6. Now, it looks like I'm maybe picking on Mindy here, and for good reason, because she is probably the worst character in the entire franchise in Scream 6. Scream 5 she was fine, but in Scream 6 she was definitely the worst character, and she became probably the worst character in the entire franchise. It's because of the decisions that the character made, the dialogue, the script, the story, her comedic timing, the delivery of her lines. Everything was bad, but this movie was marred with a lot of people surviving unsurvivable stabbings. But with Mindy surviving an unsurvivable stab, it was probably a survivable one if she got to the hospital in time, etc. So we can give her a pass for that. But at the same time, the way she jumped up at the end and she's like, hey, everybody, lots of people died, but I'm okay and everything's cool. It was just so cringeworthy. And I don't blame the actress. I've never blamed the actress because I know she's a good actress. She's really good in Yellow Jackets. It's just the lines that she's given in this film. It's almost like the directors don't know her personally. And she's reading these lines and thinking, this isn't me. I can't do this. But she does it anyway. And every line that she delivers is absolutely atrocious. I think it was a horrendous end to her character for this movie.
Have I maybe overindulged Richie's love of these little movies? For me, they're just a little dark.
And then number 4 is Bailey's mood change at the end of Scream 6. Now, I know that some characters want to reveal themselves as being crazy after they're revealed as Ghostface, and we see that all the way through the franchise. But when Bailey is revealed as one of the Ghostface killers at the end of Scream 6, it was literally a Scooby-Doo moment, and it felt like I was watching a Scooby-Doo cartoon. The way he changed at the end of the movie, it's just not the same character. He had no character traits from what was built up at the beginning of the film. He just completely changed into another character. And again, it's not Dermot Mulroney's fault because he's a fine actor. It's the script, the dialogue, the delivery of the lines. Everything was just off with his performance at the end. It was completely off-putting, so that was definitely one of the worst decisions that I've seen.
Yeah, of course, me.
Now, before I go on to my top 3 worst moments, I feel like the 7 that I've just mentioned before, like I said, is mostly about dialogue and the delivery of lines and the decision making in the scripts, whereas the 3 worst decisions that I've decided to use are moments in the franchise that were bad decisions, not just with the dialogue, but the decision making for the movies moving forward.
Are you really still mad at me? You said you wouldn't write a book about what happened. And then you wrote a book about what happened. Oh, come on.
And then number 3 is Gail's decision to write another book in Scream 6. Now, I've mentioned quite a few issues about Scream 6 here, and it's because Scream 6 is probably the worst in the franchise. Still a good movie, but just the worst in the franchise, and it made the worst decisions. And this is probably the worst decision in Scream 6, is to make Gail again from Scream 1. She already progressed from Scream 1 to being this hard-ass reporter leading on to Scream 2. In every movie she gets softer, and it's just not her anymore. So when we see her saying, oh, I wrote another book, you're like, why would you do that? That's really disrespectful to us as the audience, people who've loved Gail over the years and see her progression onto Scream 3, 4, 5, 6 or whatever, but then totally disrespecting us, not just us, but disrespecting the characters, disrespecting Sydney, disrespecting the death of Dewey. Come on, why would you do it? And also disrespecting the new characters like Sam and Tara. There's just no reason for her to do that. And in fact, even if you didn't write that into the script of the movie, the structure of the film wouldn't change. There's no need to say I wrote another book, because the book had no influence on the killers in Scream 6. It was just there as maybe a scene filler. I don't know. There's no reason for that scene to be there other than for the audience to go, I don't like Gail anymore. That's it. So it was a really bad decision.
Welcome to Act 3.
And then number 2 is Amber's reveal as the killer in Scream 5. Now, this isn't just one scene particularly, it's just the decision to make her the killer in Scream 5. And it is mostly based on the events leading up to it, because we're supposed to believe that Amber was capable of doing certain things throughout the movie. She's supposed to have killed most, if not all, of the victims in Scream 5. How she was able to pull a lot of that off, you'll never know. I know that we have to suspend disbelief for most of these movies, and I know that I've said this time and time again, the killer is different when they're the killer because it's a stuntman, there's no rules, how fast they can run, how tall they are, they grunt like a man. I accept that because that's exactly what Wes Craven wanted. But at the same time, decisions made, not how they do it. It's the decisions made by Ghostface that just makes me feel like it's unbelievable that it could be Amber. You've got a character like Dewey, who's a legacy character. He's killed off by someone he didn't even know was the killer. And he didn't even know that she was a killer because she didn't reveal herself to him when she was killing him. If only she took her mask off to Dewey and Dewey saw her so he knew who the killer was, maybe it would have made it a little bit better for us. Not for us to see it was Amber, but for him to see it was Amber. For example, similar to Casey Becker in Scream 1, she pulled the mask off the killer. She was able to see who was killing her. But Dewey, being a legacy character, he didn't get that opportunity. He didn't get to see who was killing him. I would prefer Dewey to be killed by someone more important than Amber.
Roman Bridger, director. And brother.
And at number 1 is the brother retcon from Scream 3, including the motive and the speech behind it all with Roman. Now, Roman, he was a decent character at the end. He was a decent Ghostface killer, but the motives behind it, the retcon behind it, with him saying that he gave Billy and Stu, or he gave Billy the idea to go out and do these killings, and he gave Billy the motive behind it. I think it's okay on paper if we get those ideas implemented in Scream 1 and Scream 2, but we didn't get that revealed to Scream 3 because it didn't exist until the writing for Scream 3. We know that Scream 3 script was marred by a lot of rewrites, etc. And you can tell, even up to the end, you can tell it was probably a 2-minute rewrite that they wrote on the day of shooting. And it shows. And I think the retcon works because there's nothing to say that that can't happen. But at the same time, if you're going to retcon something, make it a big retcon, a really good retcon. It was a big retcon, but a big risk. And I think it's a risk they didn't have to take, because if you watch Scream 4, 5 and 6, there's no mention of Roman anymore. There's no mention by Sidney saying, oh yeah, one time Roman, my brother that I didn't know I had, killed people and he tried to kill me. There's just no mention of it anymore, so there's no need to have Roman there. So I think they know that the retcon that they created in Scream 3 was pointless, and that's why they didn't continue on talking about it in Scream 4, 5 and 6. Just because they didn't talk about it doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but they know themselves it was a stupid retcon at the end of the day, and it was a massive retcon, and it just didn't work for me. With the story to move on with Sidney, it kind of can work, but as you saw in Scream 4, 5 and 6, or sorry, 4 and 5 I should say, because Sidney's not in 6, 4 and 5, she didn't mention it. There's no point in it. So I know it, they know it, you maybe know it yourself. It was probably the worst decision in the Scream franchise, and for that to be the worst decision is not a bad thing, because like I said, there's not that many really bad decisions in the Scream franchise, and that's probably why I had to dwindle it down to mostly dialogue and script, because the scripts are pretty good, to be honest. Even in the worst movies, the scripts are actually okay. So I was pleasantly surprised that this one was the worst one for me. So what are your thoughts on that, guys? Is there a lot that I've missed out, or I've maybe included things that I shouldn't have included in there? Leave your list down below. If you can't give me a 10, give me a couple of bad decisions that you think should make the top 10. And as always, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back seat!